in your camera. Prepared seats. Oh, my heart is like this.
So my name's Ian Clarke. I'm born in Ireland, but I've lived in Uganda over 30 years. I first of all came out with Church Mission Society, the Anglican Mission. And the first project that I did with my wife and family, we started a hospital in Luwero after the war in 1988. This called Chiwoko. And we ran that project about 5 or 6 years. Subsequent to that, I came back to Kampala, this time just as a private person, and with the aim of starting a hospital. About 7 years ago, I had developed the hospital to a level where I had taken in some minority partners before that, about 10 years ago. And then I was approached by a large company in Mauritius, which wished to extend a medical footprint, a healthcare footprint in Africa. And they bought a majority shareholding of the hospital. So there was a change about 6-7 years ago when that released some cash for me and I was able to diversify into some other businesses. So I said, let me develop something in the agribusiness sector.
And of course, it's nice being on a farm to go back to your roots. By having the farm, I'd like to do several things. One is have it as a demonstration farm that the local farmers can see it and see, oh, you can grow potatoes, you can grow corn, you can grow coffee well. We've started on the outgrowers scheme with David, whom you met, which I hope that will improve livelihoods. So this farm is also an attempt to make the Ugandan coffee, Robusta, good quality, traceable, Robusta, and hopefully push the price up a bit.
When I was in Ireland before I came here, I was a general practitioner. I was fairly well off. I was middle class and so on. When I came out to the Luwero Triangle, I had to start over again. Always, you have to be prepared to start from very little again. And when I came back to Kampala, another small clinic starting again. And let's not forget, in Africa, you need to be there. You need to know what's going on. So you need to get your system of governance, your system of corporate governance, on those sort of things.
We've started in the last couple of seasons to grow seed potatoes, and we have, do you see that shed there that's kind of white? It's got a green roof.
Yes.
It's a cold store. So we built this cold store, which means that even for ware potatoes, we don't have to sell them when everybody else has them. So this year, for example, we harvested the ware potatoes, but we kept them in the cold store. And then when the potato prices were going up, then we sold them. Well, I sort of got into chickens like a lot of people get into these things, and then you're like, oh, why did I get into this? And it actually took me quite some time to get, all these things are quite scientific. So if you're not getting about 80% lay from your chickens, 80% and beyond for a certain number of weeks, and you're not feeding them, I think it's 120 grams per day, then you're probably not making any money. It's not anything wonderful. But the side effect is the chicken manure. Now, if you're really pure organic, you're supposed to have cow manure. But I'm not pure organic. And the chicken manure, there's plenty of it, and it works. It works. So I'm happy to have that cycle where I'm able to use things, and it's okay. It's settled down into something that, as they say, cleans its nose, but it's not highly profitable.
I didn't want all my eggs in one basket. We had, proper books of accounts. We had good governance. We had a good organization. Of course, then someone who's looking for an investment may come and say, can I invest? At that point, someone can say, no, I don't want investment. I'm going to just keep doing this myself. And so it was the right time for me to sell. And yet at the same time, I didn't leave. I stayed on as chairman for about 4 or 5 years after that. Still stay on the board. I'm still a shareholder. But now the hospital has got professional management and people, and I'm not so much involved apart from board meetings. It's been nice for me to be able to both diversify and then also invest in something like the land where I see the changes on a weekly basis.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is NSSF Customer Connect Week, and we are winding down the week. What a week it has been. Good morning. My name is Apolomboa, and I am your host this morning. But this morning is also special. As we wind down the week, I dress into another hat where we have been congregating into a school, and you can tell by the dressing, and later on you'll see the dressing of my other colleagues, that the person still chasing for money will put on a tie, even on a Friday. Those that money is chasing will not put on a tie. So today in my class, in my capacity as headmaster, we shall be graduating 683 persons who have deliberately taken off sometime 6 weeks, between 6 weeks to 6 months, to study something, and they say we need to do something about our finances. A very, very good morning, everyone. Again, thank you so much for joining us at NSSF. The journey began at birth. When you were born, you were given money, and your fingers were made to hold this money. So you were taught how to handle money right from birth. And that journey continues. Today, the persons that we are graduating, they are still in their learning journey. For us, we believe the school of money is a lifetime school, and we have to keep learning day and day in. Allow me to invite, to set the tone of the day, why we do this, where we are, how we do this. Rebecca Mugisha Kabugo Namudu, who also doubles as the LC1 chairman when we come to this school of money. Rebecca, welcome.
Apple, every time you say all my names, you'd best remember I'm your boss. But thank you so much for those kind words, Apollo, for those welcome notes. A good morning to each and everyone out there, for those that have joined us today and for those that have been with us since Monday when we started our Customer Connect Week. I would like to consider today as a climax of that week. At the fund, what Customer Connect Week actually means for us. It's that time of the year, every single year, where we get to stop. It's a time where we get to stop and ask ourselves key questions on whether we are in alignment with our customers. We find different ways and various ways in which we can connect with our customers, in which we can engage with them, and just to remind ourselves in-house and also to remind our customers that customers for us at the fund are extremely central to everything that we do. They are central to our thinking, to our strategies, to our future, to our yesterday, to our tomorrow, and and it's exciting for us to get to this time of the year and for us to align to that thinking. I also welcome our panelists for the day. These guys sitting here are my seniors, maybe not in age, but in rank. Fred, you're most welcome, the head of customer operations. Patrick, you're most welcome, our acting managing director. And in a very, very, very special way, I would like to welcome Ian Clarke. I've told him already before he came on stage that I'm very glad and I feel very, very honored as a person to be on the same stage with him, because he's one of those people that I've watched since those days when he used to write in New Vision. Right now he writes on blogs. He has challenged so many sectors. He has inspired so many people from far and beyond, close and near, and I'm really, really greatly honored to have you grace this occasion, Ian. And there are so many things I could say about you. I could talk endlessly about what you've done in the education sector, medical world, agriculture world, but guess what? I'll just share just a simple story for people to understand how I'm excited and how I feel honored for you to be with us today. So I have a friend of mine who at some point in time was scouting around for schools and wondering where they should take their children to school. So they did some interviews with a few friends. They went and approached certain schools to find out what they teach, how they teach it, and how much they pay. And then in those rounds, they discovered that Ian had opened up a school, Clarke Junior School in Bokassa. And it took them a split second to make the decision. And so when we asked them, how come you chose Clarke Junior School? I mean, you've been asking questions around everybody. How come you were very, very fast in deciding for your children to go to Clarke Junior School? And this is what they had to say. They said, Clarke's name goes before him. So I am certain that my children are safe and they are sorted. And even as I say that right now, I'm reminded of a certain line that I like in a great book that says that a great name is better than many, many, many riches. But as I think about Ian Clarke, I can say confidently, without embarrassment, without shame, that I can put Clarke's name and riches in the same sentence, and I'm not embarrassed. Because for most people, it's either one or the other. So thank you so much for coming to join us today. And I'm really, really honored that you are a keynote speaker. To our team out there that's should I use this one? This. Okay. Testing. Okay. To our team out there that's graduating, I just want you to know that I'm extremely proud of you, and this is why I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you because every single person that embarks on a financial literacy journey will never stay the same. If you're in class, and for those who have been in class for the last, some of you keep compounding your knowledge for the last 3 years when we started this, you know for a fact that financial literacy has the potential to disrupt your life in a good way. And your life can never stay the same. So I'm so proud of you, and I hope that you've asked your friends and family to join with you in this event as you graduate. And the reason why I hope that your friends and family are tuning in right now is just for 2 reasons. One, simply to make them envious, because I can assure you that this journey will never leave you the same, but also two, to hold you accountable, because it's a journey. I know that for us who have been in class, every time we hear about talking about money, we get excited and we think there's a silver bullet to wealth creation, but guess what? If there's any light bulb moment that dawns in you in a financial literacy class, is that time is a key aspect. It takes time. It's a journey. So just consider this graduation as episode 1, season 1, and it's a lifelong journey. And the guys that you have invited to be with you in this event as you're graduating, I would like them to hold you accountable, even as this episode 1 of this season 1, because we have so many episodes to go where you will unlearn, learn, relearn, compound the information that you have learned, but even more importantly, get into action. But as I thought about today, again, to the guys that are graduating, I found something on one of my WhatsApp streets, group that I'm on from my primary school. And it staggered me, and I just want to read it out to us. It goes on to emphasize how important education is, even if it's education in financial literacy. And this is what it has to say. It says, at the entrance gate of a university in South Africa, the following message was posted for contemplation. Destroying any nation does not require the use of atomic bombs or the use of long-range missiles. It only requires lowering the quality of education and allowing cheating in the exams by the students. Patients die at the hands of such doctors. Buildings collapse at the hands of such engineers. Money is lost at the hands of such economists and accountants. Humanity dies at the hands of such religious scholars. Justice is lost at the hands of such judges. The collapse of education is a collapse of a nation. And there's no pun intended here. But that just goes you to emphasize the importance and the privilege of us being in class in financial literacy, and for you guys graduating and studying all the things you have studied from experts for free It just goes to emphasize the importance of education, even if it means education in matters of finance, which I would like to call financial literacy. So please allow me to call the head of operations. I like to call him Mr. Masape. He knows why I call him that. He will tell us where this journey began, where it is, and where it's going. Thank you very much, and please make sure you have your coffee and tea so you make it through this entire occasion. Daudi, Liva, and Malaika, I know you're tuning in. Today you're going to see Clarke Senior. I know you know Sean Clarke, and you keep telling me about his diggy. Well, today you're going to see his father. Thank you very much. Fred, you're most welcome.
Thank you, Rebecca. I always tell you, I find it challenging speaking after Rebecca, but over time I've trained, and I try my best, not to match up, but to deliver the message that I need to deliver. Thank you to all our members, savers that are watching, listening, tuned in on whichever channel. We appreciate you and we celebrate you. You are the reason we are here and exist. To our graduates who are soon to be graduates, we thank you. It's been such a tough time, but you endured. You were so brave. It's been a number of months, and here we are. And for us here, it's just not even about going through the months of the period. It's about the practical lessons that we get to learn. And we hear a lot of stories. I would like to add on Rebecca's voice to say, Ian, it's a pleasure. Whenever I meet with you and we have a chat, I become wiser. Then in my mind, I'm like, why don't I just spend all the time there with you, next to you? Thank you. I remember when we had the tour at the farm. I was mesmerized. I said, is this happening? But I wasn't shocked because I know how you think. I've seen you run businesses, your integrity, your level of commitment, and your visionary perspective to things. It's not just short term, not here. It's far and beyond. And I like the way you are so dynamic that you moved from health, you had impacted what you had done, went to politics to impact community, and now you said, you know what? Uganda's competitive advantage is agriculture. I think there must be some Ugandans who should be able to do things special and different so that the rest of us can learn. I'm happy to say that after having one-on-one with Ian and visiting the farm, I said, before end of this year, I'm setting up 1% of what he has. And 1% of what he has is about 20 acres of coffee. Then I said, at least in my lifetime, you must measure according to you what you can handle. In my lifetime, at least I will do 10% of what he has done. So that's about 150 acres to 200. And then I said I won't stop there. I'll make sure that these Basoga people here who are very brilliant, they move away from the sugar cane that is starving them, and they start doing coffee, because then they can mix it with some matoke and other things, and we save the nation. So together with the mobilization I'll do down there, I'll make sure that community, together we hit about 50% of your portfolio, Ian, and then we'll do modern farming and we'll be able to change lives down there. But why am I saying this? It is important that the lessons we have learned, graduates, we do not just keep them, but we continue on this journey and be able to do some things. You don't have to do as big as Ian has done. You understand? It's been a journey. Even up to now, it is still investing without getting anything. You understand? It's a vision. You may not do as big as I'm doing or what Patrick can do, but do something within your means. And can I say something I've learned from Ian Clarke? When you do social entrepreneurship and it's beyond your personal self, to parent, to meet my, and it's something beyond, there is a way God blesses what you're doing, and it's not with a lot of energy or effort, but you get there. And also another lesson I've learned from him and other seniors like Patrick is, don't look at the short term. You understand? Look at the long term. And I like the Bible, the good book gives a story so many times when we need to be patient and look at the long term. But you know, when David wanted to build the house, God said, no, it will be the son that will build the house. But either way, the house was built because he prepared the material, he did everything, but the house was built. So, and when I was having a quick one, Ian here, he told me, what Indians seem to have, not have better, but seem to have better than most Ugandans, is though we are family-oriented as Ugandans, the family orientation stops with funeral services, burying the person together. Meanwhile, the person who has lost his spending on the rice and the meat, and then the porridge in the morning. We stop at the funeral services. That is solidarity. Then weddings, contribution. You understand? But when someone says, now I've married, I want to build a house, please contribute for me, then you'll see the gossiping. Hey, is it us who built for him a house? Is it when someone says, I want to start a business, mobilize for me? There, Ugandans, it's not family. And he told me something interesting, that then your own relatives will start to steal in your business. They steal from you. The Indians, the family orientation is they will mobilize capital together, they will start the business, they will sit in, they know this is it, we must survive. You understand? Eh? And that is the difference. So graduates and our members listening out there, for me the call that I would want to give us is, can we, all these friendships and interactions, can we have niginas? Can we have circles? Can we have investment clubs? Can they, in fact, I would want to call upon us, let the friendship go beyond burial, meeting and eating, and, wedding. No. Let the friendship be measured with how much value these people adding on. Because the person who doesn't add value on you is not your friend. He wants you where you are, he wants you dead, he wants you back in the village. You understand? And so when I get a chance to meet the youths, I tell them, no. Wedding meetings, no. Wedding contributions, no. Go to church, they wed you, it is done. Save that money, start a business. I contribute to businesses. When someone tells me I want to start a business, whatever little I contribute. But when you tell me a wedding, I'm like, hey, the church is free. Let us do this thing and finish it. So that is about Ian. You'll hear more about him. I would like to thank the leadership of NSF, the managing director in his absentia, and the acting managing director, Patrick Ayota. I've learned a lot of things in the time I've been with Patrick. And one of the things that he always emphasizes, he's so innovative and so focused on innovation because he believes innovation will change Uganda and will change the world. It's just not about the small I innovation, but the big I also. Can we be able to create an ecosystem of entrepreneurs to see that we are part of the problem? We don't just go to collect money or funds, but we are supporting these farms in growing and providing employment, that even when we are long gone, there will be farms, about maybe 500 of them, that are employing thousands of Ugandans that we say we're part of. He's so passionate about innovation, and shortly I'll be calling him. I know he will talk about that program. He's so passionate about them. As NSSF, we started financial literacy program about 3 years ago. And this was because we redefined our purpose. We said, fine, the media will talk about not paying this and this. We'll do our best to be able to, but we will not focus our energies there. What we'll focus on will be the vision to see that every Ugandan learns how to save. Every Ugandan learns how to multiply the money. And it's not a fact of how much you earn. No, it's a fact of the fact that the principle, the paradigm shift, the mindset shift goes to not how much money you have, but the principle of saving. Even if you have 100 shillings and that's your salary, can you be able to save 5 shillings aside for whichever purpose? So that beyond NSSF, the conversation transcends beyond NSSF, and we know that our people are having a better life. So that is part of what we call our shared value commitment. We've gone beyond corporate social responsibility. We've provided things to hospitals. We provided to schools. We still continue to do that. But we've gone beyond that and we say, we won't be giving out handouts. Now we are going to be part of the shared value and support institutions and support people to be able to save and grow. And that is financial literacy. Patrick will talk about innovation. So it's just beyond collecting money, investing it, and paying it out. So I would like, at this point in time, to recognize our facilitators, those people that have walked the journey with these graduates of today. They've given of their time. It's not even about pay, but it's a passion they have, that they've, through the months, trained people, and anytime we call upon them, they are able and they are willing, they always come around to support. We thank you. We are happy that you are partners. At this point in time, allow me call upon the acting managing director, Patrick Ayota, a man that needs no introduction. At least what I've told you is that he's so passionate about transforming this nation, and he will do it, and is committed to that. My best description of Patrick is he's a strategist. He always thinks strategy. And whenever we have conversations, he tells me about those books of the military. Now I'm like a military man. I know how a military strategizes, how they get to win wars. Please join me. Welcome, Patrick.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you, Fred. I think he just spoke for and said some things, and I was checking. Is he talking about me or somebody else? Because I'm not very sure in that area. And the colleagues and our members out there, every month, every year, we take a week to contemplate about what we are as a purpose, as a fund. What's our purpose? We are beyond collecting, investing, and giving back the money to the members. We've been blessed, and as many of you know, the good book says, to whom much is given, much is required. So I'm going to share with you just a story, just tell you how impactful we can be as a fund. And I'm just going to use two illustrations. The first class of financial literacy was around 134 students. They attended this class faithfully. Once a week, they would meet here. It was a physical, this was pre-COVID, just the year before COVID. And when there was a doctor from Ginger, he would drive every Wednesday for 6 months until he graduated. And you would think that, okay, why is this doctor so concerned about learning about money matters? And it was really very important to him. But at graduation, there was a story that touched me. This couple was about 55. I think the gentleman was closer to us, 60. The lady was around 50. They had attended the class for 6 months. So this is their testimony, that final day of graduation. Apparently, the man was a typical Ugandan man. I make the money, I make the money, I keep the money, I direct where it is spent. I think you men, you can testify, you men, you know that. But apparently, his wife thought she was a better money manager because she saw what he was doing with the money. He would make the money, and before the end of the week, the money would have worked. Maybe weddings, maybe whatever it was, and they were consistently broke. And it had become a point of contention in the family. To the point that this is what they said, they had actually contemplated divorce before they had got into the class. 6 months later, happily standing beside each other, the man testifies that now he makes the money, the woman manages the money, and they are happy as can be. Now you can think about that impact. Who even thought that that's what you'd be doing, that actually a class like financial literacy would save a marriage that has been together for the longest time? What's my point? If it can save a marriage, think of what it can do in your own life for the things that you have learned along the way. And like Fred said and Rebecca said, learning never stops. I'm in class right now trying to learn, by the way, about money. So it never stops. I'm an accountant. I'm a financial by background, but my wife is a better money manager than I am. It took me a long time to figure that out. You know, I was a typical one. I make the money, I keep the money, I direct where it's going to go. And we're not going anywhere. until about 15 years ago, I realized, I think it was actually going to be a point of contention for us. She began money. So I make the money. Honey, this is what we made. It is in the book. Me, you give me, I think by then it was an interesting man. I think with me, this was the US. I was making $3,000 when I met that. So I would say, me, I just need $500 so that I can send to my people. I can blow it out. Now I know you need a little more because you have to do your hair. I think $750 is for you. The rest you manage it as a savings. And the things we did over the last 15 years, just beginning from that, was amazing. I found I could blow my 500 away. I mean, I could. I mean, everybody calls you, they want men and so on, and some of us don't have the guts to say no, so we let it go. The good thing is once the 500 is off, I can actually honestly tell the person, without lying, I don't have any money. And it was okay. And those are the things that we learned going through that process. So that's basically, when you look at the purpose as a fund, you have to reach beyond. And as this Fred said, share the values that we need to have in that process because it's important. The second one, I'm just talking about innovation. And this you have to almost think through from a strategic perspective. Our country, Uganda, is not creating jobs. We have 200,000 students who finish university. About only 50,000 to 80,000 get jobs. The rest can't. And yet they have a lot of energies, they have a lot of things. But more think about for the fund. How does this fund grow? It only grows in two ways. Organically, in other words, we make revenues, we pay expenses, the net balance helps us grow. That's organic growth. The next one we grow is through contributions, more contributions coming through. And it comes only through two ways. Higher salaries, which, as you know, the big companies are paying higher, but they're not hiring as many. In fact, they're even contracting. So you have fewer members, but they're making more money. So that kind of nets out. So there's not a lot of growth coming from new higher salaries or new members. But if the country is not creating jobs, it would mean that in 15 years' time, NSF, big as it is today, could die because you're not getting new members. Unless we intervene and begin creating jobs. And that's been what we've been trying to do over the last few years, experimenting. We found out that a lot of people have wonderful ideas. They get very excited. They just want to get $10,000 to make that idea work. Nobody's willing to give them money. As Fred says, we don't fundraise for businesses or for a house. We rather fundraise for you when you're dead or you're getting married. So we said we put together a pool of money as a fund. We got partners who actually wanted to do the same thing, MasterCard. Now banks have joined us. And just on Wednesday, what we did was basically we had a pitch from about 42 startup businesses. And we are going to put a little money in 30 of them so they can work with that journey and begin to do it. And we're going to do this over the next 5 years. Next cycle is going to be next year in April that we're going to do that. We hope we do about 100 startups. The cycle after that is going to be an all-female, all women. So we are going to deliberately look for you, take you through a program of training for about 3 months, and then at the end of the day, give you an opportunity to pitch. I would love to fund 200 startups for women so that if we do that as a country, we have a chance of building a future for the fund and for the country as we do that. So we don't stop learning. We are trying to do that so that we can actually make it into that area. So as we come to this day today and we look at the people who have graduated, really want to congratulate them. This year, we have 688 participants in the program. Amid this COVID, you guys were able to actually join this program and stay with it. Interestingly enough, when we're doing this last cohort in innovation, the one I just talked about, after the first lockdown, our intent was to go out in various parts of Kampala and various parts of the country, because when we ran the pilot, we found that most people who start businesses are so tunnel-focused on their idea, they do not think about the other elements that make a business successful. For example, marketing, for example, accounting, organization structure, managing people. They don't think about those things at all. So we created a program where we're going to go out and actually tell them about that. Then the lockdown came. We couldn't travel. But we don't stop thinking. So we built a platform, an online platform that we have, and launched it in May. last year. The most amazing thing, by August, we had 1,500 Ugandans had gone through that training. And what it helped us, we didn't even know. One of the best things on Wednesday was to be able to tell, there's this gentleman from Yumbe. And if you know, Yumbe is very near Arua. He had gone through that program. He didn't have a phone. He didn't know the internet. He said he never knew anything about the internet. But his daughter had a smartphone. And they would faithfully log on and go through that course. And they would answer questions because it's very interactive. As you answer questions, at the end of it, there's a business plan. And he was one of the ones who came to pitch. And he does biz. And what he just wants to do, he says he has a market in Southern Sudan. He wants to buy a machine that will help him refine the honey, package the honey, and now it's at actually international standards and can sell it to Sudan, which was very amazing in that case. So this has now become, and we're trying to do that so that we can make a reach out to everybody who is there. So for those participants who are here, I know you have your ideas. Please, I'm going to tell you something. When you think about it, go to our website, nssfug.org. Just look for the High Innovator and go there and begin, because you have a wonderful idea. You never know what it will do. And just get into it and know. Now, the classes that came through that, it was very interesting. I'm told we had they were divided into cohorts. We had the 7th cohort was 196. The 6th cohort was 133. We had what they call the Rolai initiatives, 65. Some came through the accountants, IKPAO, 42. MASIC was 28. Malmey was 36. Fireworks, 40. The 5th cohort was 65. The 4th cohort was 83, a total of 688. So I congratulate all of you and employ you that the education that you've had, please, let it help you reshape your thinking, repurpose you. COVID was one thing that taught us one thing: the basics matter, savings matter. We're all locked up. Didn't matter how much money you had. You couldn't go anywhere. Repurpose, reimagine. You won't believe the abilities you have if you just refocus, reflect, and rebuild. And let's connect together and rebuild together for a better life. And on that note, I know Rebecca has said this, so did Fred. Now, Mr. Clarke, if I also add on to mine, then we may not come up here. But I think you just have to think about Ian Clarke from Ireland. You come to Kampala, you build a hospital. You see things are not going right. Some of us are so scared of politics. You run to be mayor of Makindye, you're elected, you make the changes, and say, man, I wish we could have you run for something higher. But ultimately, what he has done for this country has been incredible. In terms of just being part of a community, shaping it in the way it needs to, and leaving a legacy behind. And today, I think, Ian Clarke, what we can say, what you've done so far to this country has just been incredible. And when we saw again the video of the farm, even me now, I want to be a farmer. I said, really? How can you come from Ireland to here, get some land, do something this marvelous, and me, I'm still thinking, I need to be in Kampala. No, I think I'm going to Tororo, a little village called Nyem Nyem. Okay, on that note, I want to like to invite, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Ian Clarke. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick, for those kind words, and also Fred and Rebecca. I'm very honored to be here. I'm very, very honored because to be part of the community, to be part of Uganda, to be part of the various communities I've been in, it's an amazing thing, and to be, not born in this country, but to be accepted as a Ugandan. The theme of the week is rebuilding together, and I want to congratulate NSSF on how they have been foresighted and have really are looking ahead. I remember having one meeting with Patrick some while ago, and he was thinking about innovation, and NSSF and Patrick have gone ahead and practiced what they preached. And he just mentioned, if you don't create jobs, then you're not going to have any contributions. And so in the long term, it's good for NSSF, but it's good for the country. And I think NSSF is the biggest pool of long-term savings that we have. And I've certainly sat in enough meetings with insurance people who've decried the sort of short-term attitude that we have in Uganda. Banking is short-term, everything is short-term. And NSSF is the long-term fund that we have, and is giving good returns, very good returns, in fact, to the savers. Where do I start? Well, maybe let me start with something that I was told by, I think, Apollo, one of your staff, that when you've done surveys of your savers who have lifted their savings, that, let me say at least the majority, after some months, they don't have anything left. And that is really defeating the whole purpose of us getting this nest egg for a rainy day or for when we get older. And I think back to my time as Mayor of McKinley, and we had various government schemes. The Youth Livelihood Programme was one of them that I remember. And I think some of those schemes are still in existence. And the Youth Livelihood Programme, where we would give out grants of 5 million shillings, 1 million shillings, a few million shillings to get a small group together. It would usually be young people. And they would come up with an idea. There'd be very many people would come up with various ideas, but it might be something like doing catering, or hiring tents, or having a piggery and selling pork. Those kind of schemes. And the idea was that you had 7 or 8 people or 10 people got together, and they organized themselves, and then they got the budget for it, and hopefully they were able to then create jobs for themselves and for other people. So the scheme was well intentioned. But what happened, I can tell you, was that because the money was from government, it was regarded as free money. We got free money. And most of that money was lost, in my experience. Now, maybe they're better organized now, but and it was really this thinking that it was 2 things. One is, I just need the capital. I have no money, and that's why I'm not successful. I just need capital. And the other thinking was, well, it's government money. It was supposed to be paid back. It was in the form of a loan, should be a revolving fund. But this attitude that since it's from government, really it's free, and some people simply stole it, and other people it was a lack of management and so on and so forth, lack of training, all kinds of things. So I think what the one point I need to make is that capital is not enough. So if someone gets their, it can be anything, it can be 10 million shillings, 50 million shillings, 100, depending on how long a person is saved and so on. But let me tell you, capital will never be enough. Money will never be enough, for one thing. But for the ingredients to make an investment work, it needs other things as well as capital. And I think really labor and skills, the skills that come with that. And I think we need to, that's why we need to look, when we get a lump sum and we want to say, now this is for my retirement. Now how do I go about this? I was on a thing with Robert Kabashenga, and Robert is, as you know, he's farming as well, a very serious coffee farmer. And I think he was going to lift his NSSF, and he talked to Richard and some of the people, and then he didn't, because he realized he's getting a good return on this investment with NSSF, and perhaps he should just be a bit more cautious. And so I thought, as I was thinking about this talk this morning, I was saying, getting a lump sum of money and making a quick decision about how you'll invest it is like getting angry with a person and then firing them off an angry email. You will regret both those things. When you get your money, whatever amount it is, it needs to be, you need to take consideration and time and get other input as to how you should invest this, the business you should start, and all that. I really think that We need to, in fact, what we need to do when we have access to a lump sum, we need to talk to the people who are not like us. So if you're an entrepreneur like me, and I can always find things to put money into. You mentioned about the wives. I have a wife who's the opposite of me. I need to listen to her. The entrepreneur needs to listen to the risk-averse person. And the risk-averse person needs to listen to the entrepreneur, because the risk-averse person will never do anything. He'll just sit there, you know. And the entrepreneur will go too quickly into something where they might think, no, think twice about this. What are your risks in this? They're high. Do you need to do something that's less risky? Because you don't want to lose all this, you lose this money. So I think, you know, as I say, step back and consider, you know, I have access to this money now. There's been this clamor for the, what is it, you know, that money can be given to people halfway through their and I understand that. But it's not, if you look statistically and you say, well, look, more than half of these people will probably have lost this money after a short period of time, it just doesn't make sense. While you know, let me put it this way. If I have a bit of money that I don't need, I can put it in some of the financial institutions here in Uganda. And there are a number, I'll not name any, I'd be favouring if I named any of them specifically. But you can put it, it's quite easy to take your, you know, your 5 million shilling, 10 million, 100 million, put it there, and you'll probably get about 11% or something like that. Now that's a very good rate of return. NSSF, when people are saving in NSSF, not only is their employer putting in the extra 10%, but they're getting, what's your latest return? 12.15%. 12.15%. Excellent rate of return. You got, let me tell you, internationally, you just can't get that kind of a rate of return, whether you play, you know, you're on the stock market or whatever. It'll be less than that overall. So I think what we need to consider, and sometimes, in fact, maybe we need to leave our money with NSSF, or if you're not sure what to do it, put it with a financial institution where you know you're getting the money's working for you as such. As I said, success is a combination of both the capital and the skills to manage that capital. And congratulations to all the graduates from the various courses who are developing the skills. Because like the story you told, Patrick, about the man who and the woman, those are basic things. And yet sometimes we need to step back and see those things, and we see it through education. And well done for the NSSF organising the courses and for the people who've graduated today. Now, when I think about, I think the reason that I'm here today, quite honestly, is that I've just been around for a long time. I've been in Uganda for a long time. And so I've done various businesses. So people sort of know my history, or a bit of it at least, you know. And so they know that I have organically built up businesses. And I didn't suddenly appear with a pot of money and, you know, out of nowhere that I can't explain, but that one business led to another business and so on. And as I said, my latest enterprise is farming. Now, just to give you a little bit of you know, background of myself, as I have said in the video, when I came here, I started Chiwoko Hospital, which is a Church of Uganda hospital, faith-based. There was no profit involved in it. But one of the things that helped me in that venture was that I was brought up on a farm, as I mentioned. In fact, my father died when I was 9 years old, and so I had to be actively involved in the farm management with my mother. We actually had chickens. Seem to like chickens. I don't like chickens at all, actually. I'm not in love with chickens. But we had chickens and we had land, and so I worked on the land and I went to school and, you know, worked on the farm. Now, one of that things taught me in my childhood was how to be innovative, how to be a problem solver. And I had to solve problems. Of course, I made mistakes, but I had to learn skills and I had to solve problems. I learned to drive the tractor when I was very young. You know, I learned basic skills like cleaning out chicken houses, you know, or bringing in potatoes. these are just, they're very basic skills, but at the same time, learning how to order feed for the chickens when I was quite young. And I think that put something in me, in terms of the ability to look at a problem, try to solve it, and be innovative. And when I came to Uganda, and I came out there when we were in the midst of the HIV peak, really, in about 1988 and 89, after the war, these people had no referral services, and they needed at the least a clinic. And then when I did a clinic, they needed a theatre, an operation theatre, and they needed a laboratory, so that necessitated doing a hospital. So my skills in problem solving and innovation really found their place out there in the rural area. There wasn't any profit motive involved in it, but it was very satisfying to make a difference to the community. And that hospital, I was on a call. I'm chairman of the finance committee of that hospital, not day-to-day involved. But today it's 150 beds. It's got a huge community program. It's got a very, very good neonatal intensive care unit. It runs to millions of dollars, and it has about 350 staff. It's a rural hospital. It's not all singing, all dancing. It's a hospital appropriate for the needs. It's 70% subsidized for the people when they pay for it. And that was very satisfying to be able to do that. And you talk about legacy. I'm still alive, by the way. Okay. I hope to stay that way for a while. But it's good for that community, and it was using some of the skills I had learned when in Ireland, both medically and also business-wise and problem-solving-wise, and so on and so forth. So a lot of you need to be able to, it's not just a question of just getting a bit of capital and putting it into it. And as you know then, subsequently, people probably know me more for starting International Hospital. But International Hospital didn't just suddenly appear. It was 20 to 25 years probably in the making, at least 20. And it started with a clinic. My first clinic was in KPC building, as it was then, now Watoto Church. And it started with me sitting there and selling my service as a doctor. And that's one of the points I'd like to make. We all have our own skill set. We might have been trained as an accountant, in marketing, in PR, in medicine, and whatever. And a lot of, when I look at people, when they retire or when they're making a business, as I say, they not just get the money, but then it should be appropriate to what they can bring to that business. For example, it's much more common for a doctor to start a clinic. Now, I'm not saying the doctors, in fact, at at Clarke International University, which started as International Health Science University, one of the things we try to do is to teach doctors, nurses, and clinical officers, and teach medical management. And I met, or a guy just messaged me the other day, and he said there was a picture of a bus, and he said, that bus we have bought for my nursing school, and I bought it because the things that I learned at CIU, in terms of management. So we should take the skills we have and build on those. I have been building slowly over a long period of time, and you can say now, but you're quite diversified. But in fact, there's a thread in what I do. And it's easy to guess what it is. The thread is actually development of the community, development of Uganda. That's where my heart is, because this is a beautiful country with amazing people, but we're not reaching our potential or anything like it. So I didn't go into politics, for fame and glory. I went in to clean the drains. I would have gone on, you said if I'd gone on, I would have gone on to be a member of parliament, but there was too much partisanship. And I wasn't the ruling party, I wasn't the opposition, and everybody was voting opposition in Kampala, so I was, on my bike, literally away. The bike used to be the symbol of my election symbol. So, where my heart is just to see how we can develop the community, and the way we can develop communities, the way we can develop our country here. It's not really through aid. It's not a problem with aid, okay, but it's through real development, social development. Entrepreneurial enterprises, building up the wealth. When we build the wealth of the community, let me take the farm for example. The farm when we're coffee picking, we'll maybe employ 700 or 800 people on the farm. And that is, they get paid per how much they pick. That is extra cash in their pockets. That is an improvement of their household income. When they have better household incomes, they can have better health services, send their kids to school and so on. Even better than that, what we've started, and we've got 900 farmers registered, is an outgrower scheme where we've gone around, registered the farmers. You know, with apps now, you can find out how much land they have, what they're growing in their land. You can get information, household incomes, and so on and so forth. So we've gone around, we've got 900 farmers registered. Our target for this phase is 2,000 within the next couple of years. And those farmers, we've also been able to supply coffee seedlings and training. And then, because we have a big wet processing station on the farm and also a coffee huller and so on and so forth, we can buy back their product. So they have a ready market. And in fact, what we want to do is to make them improve their quality, and particularly when picking the coffee, not the strip, because when people strip, they strip the unripe beans and the ripe beans together, they put them all on the ground, they dry it as chiboko, and you get a poor quality coffee. But what we want them to do is cherry pick the ripe cherries, and they'll bring it to a buying place where you'll get the coffee. We'll actually pull out the unripe cherries. They can take those and sell them to someone else. But we'll give them a premium for the ripe cherry, and coffee prices are high at the moment. Then we'll be able to process that if it's good quality and get a premium for it ourselves. So you're raising household incomes. And if you do that, you will help, as somebody mentioned, an uneducated population is the disaster. Then you can help with education, with healthcare, and with them developing themselves. You raise all the boats in the harbour, and that's what really development is about. So the whole thing of, you know, these various enterprises have really revolved around development, because the hospital, of course, is healthcare. The education side, as you mentioned, we have a school, Clarke Junior School, and then we have Clarke International University. I think what Patrick was mentioning to me earlier, he said, do you not have an innovation centre? What we have there is one course, one module, that is called Refactory, where we partner with a commercial company, can't remember the name now, and NORAD, and we take people who have either graduated in IT, so they understand IT, or they've just a natural aptitude for that. We interview them, we take them in, and then we upskill them so that they are really able to do programming. They can then go into development of websites, they can sell their services on the internet, they can start companies, they can develop apps, work with other people and so on. But, you know, so that they get up to a much more of a standard. You know what happens is, in a lot of courses now at university, people come out with degrees, but they're lacking that little, there's a gap there in which they need that to really apply the skills they've learned, or the theory they've learned, should I say. And so that's what we're trying to do in that program. It runs for 3 months of really heavy classroom work, and then 6 months of application and working with the business. For me, for example, they worked with my farm to develop a website. And so that's, you know, if we can develop those young people to the point where they can sell their services, you know, in Ireland, they're looking for computer programmers, you know, and you don't need to go to Ireland to do that. You can do it right here, you know, with the internet. So in terms of education, you know, there's so much that one can do. You can make it a business. I mean, many successful businesses are schools. Really hard hit at the minute with the schools being closed down. It's hard to understand all that, actually. But if that school then also teaches innovation, our motto for our Clarke Junior School is inquire, discover, learn. And it's all about lifelong learning. In fact, I wanted to say that. I think Patrick said, learning never stops. You know, here I am, you know, in my 60s, really still learning. I did something on coffee, about my coffee farm with Kabashanga's Spaces 360 mentor, yeah. And someone on that said, we didn't know where you'd gone, and now we see you talking fluently about coffee. And because I've had to learn. I've been learning about coffee now for the past 5-6 years. I've been learning about farming for the past 5-6 years. And life is all about that. It's all about seasons. That's why we have a small hotel, a nice little boutique hotel in Zanzibar. Please, now that we've got Uganda Airlines flying to Zanzibar, please go stay in my hotel. You have to pay, of course. It's called seasons because I firmly believe our lives are in seasons. You have your season of being a student, but you're not a student forever. You have your season of being a doctor, but I don't have to be a GP forever. You know, you can have a season of business. You can have a season of. I've had various seasons. I've had the season of being Choko Hospital, the season of International Hospital. Now the season of farming and education. But one of the things that I can tell you that I have learned in all that is you build on your previous experiences, but often you end up starting again if you're going to do that. It's not easy, you know. Like when I was in Ireland, I was middle class. I drove a nice red Mercedes. You know, I had a family at private schools and stuff. When we came out to Luero, I barely had a car. I barely had transport. I lived in a small few rooms of somebody's dilapidated farmhouse. It was really basic. But I found that every time I've started something new, you go back to basics. When we started the farm in Chanjojo, that farm's 1,500 acres. It was 1,500 acres of bush. It was secondary bush and some of it more primary, actually. And it all had to be cleared. There was a couple of roads, but hardly anything. Roads had to be put in. The guys, we went down with a backhoe, with a chainsaw, with some guys that I knew that were willing, some guys who'd worked for me in other projects. I remember seeing this guy going around, because we had a lot of tree stumps and stuff like that in the thing. We didn't cut down the good trees. But I remember seeing this guy going around with the chainsaw, and he was sweating. And, all we had was tents. It was tough conditions to get that thing going. But now when you go, I think Apollo and Fred here have experienced it. They're like, oh, wow, this is lovely. And I like people going now, because there's something to show for it. And by the way, one of the things that I thought about farming, because you always want to be inspired. That's another thing about businesses. If you don't get people with you who are inspired, who are motivated, and you have that team, you'll have a problem. You can do all the right things in the management textbooks, but if you still don't have people who want to give the service and who are inspired, then you have an issue. So I want people to be inspired by what Uganda can be, by what we can do, because it's about land management. We've managed that land in certain ways, I hope in good ways, to bring it into order. We've planted, the trees are there for long-term, the trees are for sort of long-term income, eucalyptus mainly, a few pine. Then there's some maize which feeds the chickens and feeds the workers because we have a maize mill, so we can make maize bran for the chickens and then the maize flour for the workers. And then there's other things like seed potatoes, which we partnered with International Fertilizer Development Center, who've helped us to get started on the seed potatoes, because there's a great lack of good seed potatoes. These what you call Irish potatoes, okay? Good seed potatoes in Uganda. And in fact, Narrow, but anyway, the guys developing the seed potatoes, they came to visit the farm and they said, look, we want to work with you because as government, we're not able to meet the need for good seed. And so we're doing that. So, and then of course the emphasis is on coffee, as such. But that, what I want that to be is people say, look, I went there 6 years ago. Now 6 years is not a lot. Now I did have the capital because of the selling the majority shareholding in International Hospital. I made mistakes. I bought machines I didn't need or that were too complicated. I went into a few things that really didn't work. At one stage, I tried passion fruit. Passion fruit looked great for about 2 years, and then it died. And then someone said, oh, yeah, there's a virus. I'm like, well, You should have told me. Wish somebody had told me before I went in and made the investment. But so not everything works. And by the way, in startup situations, that's always the case. But 6 years, not a long time. I mean, we've almost been wrestling with COVID for nearly 2 years now. It's not a long time. And I have a beautiful farm. Still got to make me some money, but we'll get there. And it's about work. It's about attention to detail. It's about having the money, but then managing the money, having your vision, being motivated, and then, you know, something comes out. What I love about farming is that I put a little, not a seed usually, but a little seedling in the ground. Now, it might be an indigenous tree. It might be a coffee plant. It might be some other, it might be eucalyptus or pine. It might be even just some ornamental plant. But within a few months, that thing has established and it's growing there. And within a couple of years, I mean, my coffee that I planted 6 years ago, now I'm going to have to prune it back. Actually, now in the 7th year, you prune. Okay. So you see it with your eyes. You see this stuff growing. Uganda is very fertile. It's a wonderful, wonderful place. And when I started out, I said, you know what? Winston Churchill said Uganda is the pearl of Africa. Uganda has had all these accolades, but is it? Is it this place that's so fertile? You know, is it? You know, is farming viable as far as Uganda is concerned? And I've learned my lessons along the way. And I will tell you one lesson that I would say in terms of prospective farmers, because it's like in Uganda everybody's a farmer and nobody's a farmer, if you know what I mean. Everybody has a village, okay? So they have a farm. You know, they have something there. There's some matoke. So everybody grows up in that. But how scientific are we? How strategic are we in our farming? Sometimes I think we're just traditional in what we do, and of course just subsistence. And it's easy, you know, if somebody lives in a village, I see so many little mud huts get put up all the time. Obviously the land's getting more divided. Somebody has started, you know, a new wife and a new family. It's not, they just need to buy the iron sheets, they put up the hut, and they're there, subsistence farming, but that's really going to be a problem for us as land gets divided and divided. So how strategic are we in farming? And as what I have learned is that seasonal crops that go up and down, they go in a local market. So when I have potatoes, everybody else has potatoes. When I have maize, everybody else has maize. The prices all come down. I really don't think you can do much with that. Also because you're competing against guys who are doing their crop and not costing in any labor. They'll just take what price they get for their bag of maize. But if they had to pay someone to do that, they'd be in deficit. Okay? Now, so being strategic in what you invest in, which also depends on the amount of land you have, where the land is, what is the climatic conditions, and how much capital you have to put into it. And one of the reasons I chose coffee is because coffee has an export market. And at the minute, coffee's on a high. And I talked to a coffee agent, an exporter, yesterday or the day before, and he told me he thinks coffee prices will still continue to rise because of a bad frost in Brazil. However, we shouldn't just go and say, oh, the price of vanilla is very high, let's all go into vanilla. Oh, the price has gone down, oh, let's all go out of it. You know, that you have to take a long-term view. Because even if you put coffee in today, it'll be about 3 years before you start getting any harvest from it. But at least as an export crop, the prices don't go up and down every other day. You know, they don't fluctuate from, as happens with maize, from 250 shillings to 1,000 shillings. I mean, that's ridiculous. So they may go from, 4,000 to now you can get almost 5,900 or whatever. That's great. That's great. But at least, you know, they're not wildly up and down. Another crop that I think for smallholders, if you have a small piece of land, I think people should do, and the price of it has fallen dramatically recently, it's vanilla. So people were getting 250,000 shillings per kilo for their vanilla. In fact, it was such a valuable crop, people were collected in bullion vans, securities, you know, people with guns and so on. And the price has fallen precipitously. But people still get 50,000 shillings per kilo of fresh vanilla. And out of an acre of vanilla, which you can intercrop with coffee or bananas or whatever, it is, now I'm not very sure, but it's either 25 million or 40 million. I think it's probably 25 million. Yeah, 25 million someone can realize from their... A smallholder cannot get 25 million. Forget about Matoke, and everybody's going Matoke. The other one that I heard, which if you have a market for it, was organic pineapples, where you can get like 12 million. And the reason I know this is because I visited a scheme where there's a guy in ginger. There's several big purchasers of vanilla. And if you can have and be assured that you have a market, then that's a reason to go into it, you know. And I actually think to go into vanilla now is good because it's not so risky. You're not going to have people coming around and killing you to get your vanilla, and it's still making a very high return. And you can still put it, because it needs shade, you can put it with Matoke, you can put it with coffee. So you need to look at what is your market. In fact, that's the first thing I would say to people who are thinking about farming. Look at the market. Is there an assured market? And if there's an assured market, stable prices, then you can risk. Okay. Sorry, I've been diverted there to all sorts of things, but I started by saying that my motivation was to see development so that I could do a business that would actually help develop this country. This is my adopted country. I think I've lived longer in this country now than I have in Ireland. This is my adopted country. People have really accepted me. It's a great place. It has its ups and downs, of course. It's not perfect, but no country is perfect. But one would like to see Ugandans reach their potential. Would like to see the country reach its potential, and we can do that in very many ways. And we can do it through business. We can make our contribution through business. Fred is saying, I want to develop 200 acres of coffee, and I want to get other people pulling out a low-value crop and growing coffee, and I can help to develop my community. That's a noble aspiration. That's great. And the good thing about about that thinking is that he has a job. Okay, very, very highly paid job. He's here as a top manager in NSSF, and he doesn't need to leave his job to begin to get things going. Now, that's where a lot of people start, and I think you need to consider, there's all sorts of considerations if you're thinking about any side business or you're thinking about farming. How do I manage it? Who's managing? I had a call from a lady who's like 100 acres. She said, can you get me a farm manager? And I usually, when that happens, I call Kaweri. Kaweri is the big, huge coffee plantation down in Mabende, owned by Naumann, which is a big, huge German coffee company. But there's 2 or 3 Kenyans who run that place on a day-to-day level, and they are brilliantly helpful. They're amazing, actually. And sometimes what I'll do, I'm not saying that everybody should start doing this because you can't leave they can't lose all their workers. But sometimes those guys will see, I have this little guy, he's a section manager. He can't go anywhere more where he is. So somebody's looking for him to be a farm manager for a small farm. I'll recommend him. And that's the way to develop people, which is great. And I've had a couple of recommendations from Kaweri, and both of them, I checked, are doing really well. Because that's another area, by the way, Patrick, in your innovation. Train farm managers. Train people who will get out there, because there's nothing so, if Fred's in his job, he's putting capital into this. He knows, he's studied it, he knows what he wants. And he gets a farm manager who really doesn't implement and doesn't, then he starts to lose his money. I have a small place, it was a mistake really, over in McConnell. And I thought at one stage I'll have a village house. And we'll go for weekends. And because you can go across from Gaba there, I can be at my house there in 45 minutes. But then the farm came, and I never, I just didn't have time to go. So I put a guy in to look after this place, and then I forgot about it. Big mistake. I went back, the place was practically derelict. because the guy was absolutely lazy. Absolutely did nothing. And then what was really funny was that every time I gave him so many chances, and then when I finally fired him, and I should have fired him like a year beforehand, then he said, no, just give me a chance, give me a chance. I'm like, no, how many chances do you need to do nothing? 0. But then on the other hand, and I put a guy in who I know he's a builder, I call him Bob the Builder, if you know the children's nursery rhymes. But Bob the Builder's a good guy, you know. And Bob the Builder, I put him in there, and he'll call me up about twice a day, tell me, doctor, we need the termites reading your avocado. We need some spray. You know, we need to get that. But there's a real big need for people who can scientifically be trained and manage farms and, you know, just know how to manage labor and so on and so forth. So I put that out to you, Patrick. Okay, I should shut up now, shouldn't I? My time is over. I've wandered around there. I want to maybe make a couple more points, just because I'm coming back to people, you know, investing, getting a lump sum, and how they can make that successful. And I've said that you probably want to start as you already have your income and you start your business, but you need to know how it's managed, and you'll need to be able to be there on a fairly regular basis. When I started the farm, I didn't go and live in a tent, but I was there every week, every 2 weeks. Now, I'm there half my time. I have a container house and I stay there. Because now I'm building a lodge, a hotel, because I want people to come and see the farm, and it's another income stream. And, you know, so I'm in the detail of that thing, and I need to be there. So you need to work out where your business is, how much time it's going to take, what your skill set is, who you're going to put if you're doing it sort of part-time, and, you know, if it's a farm, where is it? If it's like Chanjojo is 4.5 hours away, my farm. So I have to get up at 6 in the morning and be on the road if I'm going to be there for any time, any length of time. And as I mentioned also, and I think Fred had reiterated, many businesses, you know, they develop because we get the support of family and friends. And it is very sad to me that in Uganda, while we are very family oriented, that we put the money into weddings, we put the money into funerals, we put the money into social events, but they're non-productive. They don't yield anything. And they're great fun, you know. Although for me, a wedding that's in vernacular and I'm sitting there isn't that much fun. But we should be, most other places, look at the Eritreans. Do you think the Eritreans don't help each other here? There's a whole community of Eritreans here. And they have bought businesses everywhere around Uganda. And they have their wives and their families here. You know what many of those guys are doing? They're up in South Sudan, putting up buildings. Do you know how risky it is to put up a building in South Sudan, in Juba? But they tell me that their return on investment is crazy. That they're now building apartments, and they can rent the apartments for $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month. And somebody was telling me it was actually a finance guy, and he told me one of the guys he knows in Eritrea there, he's collecting $125,000 a month in rents. Now I wouldn't do that because I don't have the experience. I would crash and burn. But those guys, they started and they clubbed together, they worked together, and as I said, the Indians do the same. We need to learn it, fellow Ugandans. We need to learn how to support one another. As Fred said, in business, or if someone wants to put up a house, those kind of things. And we need to stop this thing where we're stealing from each other and we don't trust each other and so on and so forth. Because I think it's, you know, the Ugandans are very good at deal making. You know, they're good at being brokers. But sometimes they're too good. You know what I mean? There's a company I know, I'm buying and selling things. There's a company I know at the minute is trying to come here to set up a crisp factory. And they need about 10 acres of land. They decided to get some along the Masaka Road. They've identified a good spot, and the price suddenly went to 200 million an acre. This is outside Kampala. You know? And so somebody has acquired that land, because it wasn't just the traditional owner who had it. It was an intermediary, shall we say. And then he's going to make, even if he gets 100 million, he'll make a killing on that. No, okay, that's fine, that's good. Okay, he's making money, that's grand. But we need the people who will really run businesses as well. The people who will, you know, just have the continuity, and we're not just doing brokerages, but we're actually, because there's no point in us complaining, look at those Indians and doing hardware shops and so on. Ugandans can do it. You know, there's no point in us saying there's a lot of Eritreans who have taken over bars and stuff. We can do it. You know, anybody can do it. But we need to support each other. want to mention a couple of other things. Oil and gas, of course, is coming at the minute. And oil and gas, I think some people, now, what you need for oil and gas is training. So it's also an investment if you take your money and you train as a stainless steel welder, okay? Or you train as in logistics as a heavy goods driver and get the license for that. So there's also those opportunities where you may change what you're doing in life and you have to invest in getting the training, and then you have a new opportunity. And that's happening. Uber, for example. Somebody can make a business out of being an Uber driver, but they may need to invest in a vehicle and a driving license. People can make a business out of, and this is the digital technology world, out of Airbnb. And the good thing about Airbnb, someone may say, I've got my money, I'm going to build a guest house, or I'm going to improve my house, and we're going to rent here, and I'm in a good position. And when they do that, they increase the capital value of their house, and they have the potential to earn income. So people need to think outside the box. Amazon is now a good platform for selling things. So we have the opportunities with our products to put them on a world market through Amazon. There's so much work that can be done on websites now remotely. That's why we upskill the people through refactoring. So I think maybe I'll stop there. This country has potential. I mean, it's amazing how that through the COVID, people have, as they say, somehow survived. But we would want to rebuild together, rebuild our communities, rebuild in terms of, I think it's great to see young Ugandans who are professionals, they're in business and stuff like that, and they're thinking about the future, and they're thinking about their legacy, and they're thinking how they'll rebuild their communities, or how they could take family land or family assets and they can build that. And I think that's great. And if we see more of that, we'll see something happening. Thanks very much.
Well said, well said. Rebuild together. Thank you so much, Dr. Ian Clarke. Thank you so much for gracing this occasion as our keynote speaker. In a little while, you are going to be responding to a few questions that have been coming in here, but mainly I'm failing to pick out which are the questions. Most of them are just they're just statements to attest to what you have said. But we'll also get into some of these questions. Thank you so much for allowing to do this. You make me look good. I need you to tell people that, I need to, just to share my experience at the farm. We are there with Frederick, Mr. Mayanja, who Rebecca called Mr. Masape. When you see in the video, there's a video where you think he's moving in slow motion, but it was out of him being tired. We moved over 150 acres. It was about 18 kilometers using the roads on one farm. We used about 3 hours moving from place to place, and it is a very, very, very vast and well-established farm. I hope we can form a collaboration and we can bring our participants for a demonstration to just see, even if they won't get the 100%, but they can actually get a little bit of it. Even if it's 1% like Frederick, kindly hold him accountable. He needs to produce a 10%. Yes. But we are really moved by such being in Uganda. One thing that is not talked about here, and I also realized that he never emphasized, he has about 700 acres of trees, mature trees. By our standards, we would have cut everything down by then. But when we walked through the trees, the plan was different. His plan was not cut the trees. His plan was let people come and have forest walks. I'll rip from the forest walks, not just the timber. So there is quite diverse thinking. Ian Clarke also has a carpentry workshop. Yes, he has a carpentry workshop. He has the refactory that someone was asking. I'm just saying some of these things so that I appear cool, like I know him so much. But this is public information. He has talked about the seasons, and I've seen quite a number of comments. The holiday destination is sorted. And just speaking, this is just as I'm speaking to all the bosses of people out there. When you are giving them Christmas, please, there is the seasons. if the bosses have heard. There's the Clarke School. There's the Clarke International University. Ian Clarke also has a landscaping business. So he's it's not just, when we see some of these things, we don't just, someone has not just sprung from the ground. And we like it that you have shared your heart. Fiona Himbisiwe says, my heart is about to stop beating. This man has too many eggs and in too many baskets. How does he do it? But he will tell us in a little while. Allow me to invite Barbara to take the seat here. Barbara is our head of marketing. I want her to join us here. Because of all this happens, we are able to get to you. We never thought. Patrick was telling you about this program. We started in our little room downstairs on Workers' House, and we used to accommodate about 50 people. Our vision was big, but we are limited to 50 people per seating. Today last year we reached 1.4 million people. And that is because Barbara is the brains behind this. She's our marketing and communications head. So when you see me and I find people and they wave at me and they say headmaster, and probably I'll even stand for president, it's because of what she has done for us. Thank you so much, Barbara. Barbara will be giving our closing remarks after we have a small Q&A with a gentleman, and the gentleman on the panel, plus Barbara, who has graciously joined us. Allow me to go straight into the questions. Before I go into the questions, I just want to recognize some representatives of the workplace cohorts that have also graduated. Fireworks, Brian is here from Fireworks. We have someone from it is called the African Academy for Women Entrepreneurs, Aisha Ali and Fiona Luswata. We have Livingstone Mukasa, most well-known to the people as People's Professor of streetnomics, and you've seen quite a bit. He had got quite a bit of backlash when he gave his analysis, streetonomics, on MTN IPO. Livingstone is with us. Thank you so much, Livingstone, for joining us. Later on, we'll be telling you what he's delivered, some of the packages that we'll be giving to our graduates. But to go to the Q&A, and kindly keep sharing these, put in the Q&A session. The first question goes to Patrick. Kindly tell us more about the High Innovator. And this time you can use that microphone. People are wondering about the High Innovator. And you've talked about the all women. And I'm seeing all the women here. Even the numbers grew when you talked about all women. Kindly elaborate some more about the High Innovator. Patrick.
Okay, I think you can hear it? Yeah, so. Yes. Okay, if you remember, the problem we're trying to solve in this country is we'll not just wait for somebody to create jobs, because in jobs are our members. So the idea behind us was try to intervene in that process. Now we've got basically, when we're looking at and researching it, we found that when you're going to create a job, there are basically 4 stages that a business would go through. Ideas are created and refined. Then somebody pilots that idea. Will it work? And then somebody commercializes that idea. Will somebody buy that idea or service? And then when all those 3 are aligned, it is scaled. It becomes bigger. Now, what we found out, in the scaling area, there is enough money. All the banks are waiting for you, because there you've got some experience, you have a product, you can give them 3 years of financials. In the commercial stage, the 3rd stage, there is some money coming from private equity and coming from venture capital. You won't believe it. In the idea stage, there are enough resources. Kampala has got around 24 business incubation centers. So if you have a wonderful idea, you can actually go there and somebody will help you refine that idea. What we found out in the pilot, no idea. So all the good ideas just fall off. And the banks are sitting at the other end saying there are no bankable projects coming through. Why? Because they fell through that cycle. So we said we want to intervene in that area. And we borrowed a model from a company in the US called Y Combinator. It was a very simple idea. they would actually put $25,000 in a startup idea. They've been there for 12 years. They've funded about 2,800 ideas. And guess some of the brand names we use today came from that. WhatsApp, Uber, Reddit, Dropbox. All of them came because somebody was willing to put $25,000 in a pilot. So we started off with it as a pilot here in Uganda. Could we do it as Ugandans? It's very interesting. The board approved us to try a pilot. We actually funded the first 5 just when the first lockdown was occurring. Interestingly enough, all the 5 survived COVID. Very diverse businesses. So the second one has been us. What's interesting, as we did that, partners came into play. MasterCard now is a partner in this program. They've committed $1 million a year for each of the next 5 years. We've matched it. The banks are in the Stanbic, Equity Bank, UDB, Abbey Trust have now joined in. We have other partners who are wanting to come through. And it's a very simple idea. If you've got a startup idea for the last, maybe you've run it for 1 year, 2 years, you kind of have and understand what you want to do, you join us, you can go on our website, now it's online, and you take a course, an 8-module course, showing you and taking you through the various facets of a business, whether it's marketing, management, whatever it is. You go through that program. As you do it, it's interactive. It will ask you questions and you answer. As you answer those questions, at the end of it, we have a draft business plan by you interacting with that system. And we customize it so that you read about Kato, the chapati seller. You read about Kasozi. You read about Mary, names we are familiar with, and people we are familiar with, because we realize that if we try to bring something from the West, from Europe, from the US, they would not be relatable to that. So that's basically, so our first cohort was the real official one was this one. We funded, on Wednesday, 30 businesses we did. We're reopening it up again in January. So the first thing, just go, if you go to our website, nssfug.org, or you put High Innovator, it will take you there, and you can actually begin to take that course. And when you've done that, in April, we pick the best ideas. They come and pitch. And I'm hoping we can actually fund 100. When we've done this next round, because we are very deliberate, we want to get our women, we want to get our females involved, because one woman entrepreneur changes a whole community. So we want to do an all-female one, which will be early next year. For us, early next year is around July, August next year, so that we can actually fund this business. And remember, we said for the next 5 years, this program will continue. The goal is to fund a minimum of 500 over 5 years, create around 132,000 jobs. So that's basically what I want to do in that area. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. And when you talk about the all women business, allow me to also introduce to you Sharon. Sharon is from Raleigh. Raleigh is Rotary Ladies Initiative. It's one of the cohorts that we have graduated. They are learning round and round and round, and I think you will have quite a number of them. Thank you so much, Sharon, for joining us. There's a quick question here, and I know most of these questions are directed to Ian, but I will give him a breather. But to get also practical experience, I will direct it to Mr. Mayanja. How can, there are actually 3 questions, but I think let me condense it into one. And you would want you to share your experience, you being an 8-to-5 job kind of person. How is it, what's the experience you starting out farming? Also, they're asking, if I have 3 acres, can I actually go into farming? Before you answer, just to let you know, I have a few acres, but when I came from Ian Clarke's farm, I resolved not to call myself a farmer. I just left it at that until, but 3 acres, can we start farming? And how can I do it with the 8-to-5 job? Frederick.
Thank you, Apollo. Very interesting that most entrepreneurs, some of them come from the corporate environment or from employment, because those that get to scale in big entities, it's because there's a training you have gotten, a certain discipline you get when you're employed, that when you get to start your own farm, you apply the same discipline and management skills and exposure. What I would tell to the person who is employed, 8 to 5 like me and wants to start out, one, network. You cannot do it alone. You've got to get like-minded people and trust them. The problem in Uganda, people do not get to know what we call equity. When we talk about shares, they think about Stanbic Bank and the IP of MTN coming. But you know what I do is I get to get young, like-minded people there in the village, but also in town. They don't have the capital, they don't have the money, but they have the heart, they have the integrity. You understand? And then I get to connect with those people. So ideally, you can almost say, I have 80% presence at my farm because they're those people that I touch base with and I trust that they've gotten the vision. The next thing I do is you must train these people. When there were the Pakasa conferences, I sent these people. I invest using my own money. But at the end of the day, it's mutual because I don't want someone who is not trained to manage. That's what Ian said. You get someone, you fire, you do. Get people who are trained. And that's a good idea to get to start training farmers because then they're able to do this. So then my weekends are very expensive. I have on Saturday an introduction of a colleague I'm going for, but I wish you would know that's like 10 million shillings thrown out because my weekends are all in the village. My weekends are in the village. I'm kind of supervising what is happening, what's going on. I'm learning. So you cut out the weddings. You cut out the parties. You cut out a lot of things because now it's my weekends that I use. You get it? And public holiday, you will not find me in Kampala. You get it? So at the end of the day, you must be able to get a model that works for you. Maybe I can afford the fuel to go every weekend. Maybe you cannot. Maybe I can afford 10 acres. You cannot hire land. Hiring land for 5 years a season, people are paying about 400,000. So hire land for 3 acres or get into a sort of local lease with a local, you may not get the real lease with a title, a lease of 15 years, 10 years. I can assure you by the end of that period, you would have bought that land or even bought bigger land. So the thing is, network with people. There are people that have land, they don't even know what to do with it. Can you network with that person? Have shares in the farm. Get into an agreement. Make use of the professionals, the lawyers or the LCs, but get started. So if you have 3 acres, you're already more than the average Ugandan. You understand? So those 3 acres, something simple. If you have time and you can go over the weekends, Ian has told us vanilla is high value, but high labor, I mean also security. But 1 acre of vanilla gets you 25 million shillings. So in 3 acres, you're at 75 million shillings. Take away a bit of labor and so on, you're at about 50. How many people get that? You understand? In a year. So then, you start to think, the pineapple nanas, 12 million shillings annually. I'm told a lot of boys in Masaka now, very rich, driving premiers and houses because a nanas, 12 million shillings a year. I mean, 3 acres, that's 30-something. That's income that is way above a lot of Ugandans. So the thing is, start, learn lessons. Has it been merry all the way? Apollo, you know my story. 2 years ago, I made a loss. I started a chicken farm. There were 2,000. They started laying. Before you know it, I thought, yes, I'd conquered. I think whether I don't know what came in, they all went to 0. I'm like Ian Clarke, I don't like chicken. I don't like chicken. I've tried bigger, I've tried farming. You keep learning. You must pay the school fees. But what I'll tell the people out there, don't start big. That's one mistake I made the most. Don't start big. You get to experiment, start small. Then when you learn and you pay the school fees, then now you can start to scale. So the few principles is network with people. Don't go alone. You don't have all the resources. Utilize your free time, social media and so on. No, people, I socialize, but it's after I've taken care of business. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Frederick. Indeed, one of the other things we do as NSSF is we try to get like-minded people together. So we have a cohort, what we call action cohorts. And if you are interested in goat farming, come together with other would-be goat farmers. Most of the people we have in the action cohorts have actually not started, but they are in the phase of learning. And what do we do as NSSF? First, we shall give you the platform. We shall bring in the experts. We shall organize visits, demonstration visits. We shall make phone calls. Not everyone can pick up a phone call and you are allowed at Ian Clarke's farm, but we shall make that phone call for you and you go visit. What you need to understand, you need to invest. The majority of people come to these action cohorts thinking that NSSF is going to facilitate everything. Bring us the goats, bring us the facilitators, bring us the farm managers, tell us everything, even pay us to listen. No. For us, all we will do is create a platform, and how you use that platform is up to you. And we have goats, we have forestry, we have chicken, we have piggery, we have so many. But just go to our website, go to financial literacy, and you can register and be part of this. Someone is also asking, how much do we pay? NSSF services are free. All these services are free, but I don't want to call them free because they are facilitated using your money. Now, whether you are using this service or not, you are paying for it. You are paying for it. I am highly paid. I am one of the very few people who is not afraid to say, I am highly paid from your money. Use our resources, as in use it because you are highly paying. As before I go to Barbara, Ian, you need to get warmed for quite a number of questions. Before I get to Barbara, I just wanted to get the peak of the people's professor. If you could please just make your way here. Again, he has an interesting view about corporate farmers, telephone farmers. You can just... telephone farmers, yes, and who the majority of us are. And we just wanted to pick your mind about how can we succeed in that. He also, Livingstone Mukasa, before he finishes, he's running a movement. It's called a FIRE movement. Financial Independence, Retire Early. And one of the things I think, for me, what I get from that movement is I need to get into agriculture. But what is your peak before I run to Barbara?
On corporate farmers.
Corporate farmers, yes. Telephone farmers.
Now, the thing about farming, like any other business, and I've started several of them, is that you gotta be hands-on and you better know what you're doing. Now, if you pick up your phone and you call somebody, they might even photograph the neighbor's plot. Just like it happens in so many places. So, let me tell you, of all the businesses I've started out, I will say what Ian has said here. For me, I got tired of the whole at 7 years. Me, farming is not my thing. So do something that you love. And again, and I've shared this widely, and I love the fact that it has come back in. Don't go to compete with people that are not competing with you. Like you go to grow maize with people that don't even know how the market will behave. You make a loss on that. So my advice to people is simple. If you're going to go to do something, go in and do it really well. And know that you have to buy the lesson that come with it. But the thing that, now that I have the microphone, I just want just a minute or 1 minute to say, you've talked about the FIRE movement. For so many years, we have bombasted and told NSSF that whatever they pay is not enough. And none of the people, none of the professors in this economy had ever told us why it's not enough. Because we are not saving enough. My calculations have come back, and they are in the book. You need to have 150 months worth of your living expenses by the time you retire. And for you, 150 months, that's your number, monthly living expense. You write it down. If you live on 1 million shillings, by the time you retire, you need to have times 150, which gives you 150 million. So now check your balance at NSSF. If it's not anywhere near 150 months, I guarantee it will not be enough. So the problem is that we are saving 15%, but in actual sense, we should be, and listen to me, because we're in Uganda, we should be saving 50%. You should be in the habit of putting away 50% of what you're earning. Now, 15% at NSSF, 35% with you invested somewhere. I think I should stop here because if I stay on the mic...
Definitely. You have made the work... Thank you so much, Mr. Livingstone Mukasa. You've made Barbara's work so easy. Communicating. She's tired of communicating. Please, you are not saving enough. You are not giving your money. No, you're not saving enough. But they have heard. Barbara, a question is coming in here, and I thought Because in financial literacy, for us, we believe everyone is a money expert. We don't have money. You are your personal money expert. You are the one who knows yourself best. So I am asking this because I think it's a lucky pick. I don't want to say it was a scientific method behind it. It's a lucky pick. The ladies out there, they sort of have taken a back place, and they say maybe let's see the men hustling. We will find them at a certain point. And also they feel like everything that is happening is not in their favor. Patrick has come up and said, I will also do something for the ladies. But from me, what I want to hear is it enough for the ladies to just sit back and lament, or can they actually use what they have and progress? Just for full information, Barbara is EXCO here. So when they say seasons, we are in seasons. So for me, I'm looking at my season. I'm now here, but maybe my next season should be there. So these are my seasons. Barbara.
Apollo is very interesting, but well, thank you for that question. And before I just delve into it, I just want to attest that indeed I have been a corporate farmer and lost a lot of money. Together with my 4 sisters, we set up some farmland, about 150 acres in Karuma, and of course with an assurance from an exporter that we would be able to actually export through them. And you know, we're just calling the farm manager, how is it going? But you really need to know that actually you have to do something you're passionate about, because after that, the only thing I loved about the whole thing was I got to eat groundnuts, because I really love nuts. So we made a big loss, but we had some groundnuts. So that was my consolation. But yeah, now about whether ladies should actually take a back seat, no. Ladies should not take a back seat, because this is your life and you're created for a purpose and you're very unique. And you have a contribution to make to the country, to society, to your family, to yourself. You owe it to yourself, actually, to be the best version of yourself. So don't just sit back and wait for people to take control of your life for you. In all matters pertaining to your life, you should rise up, and finances is one of those areas. So yes, I am that kind of lady who takes control of my life, and I've learned a lot through the Fund's financial literacy program. And now that I realize I'm not very good at farming, I am actually trying out things that don't need a lot of my time. Things like investing in bonds. And now I can confidently say that 2 years running, I've been investing in government bonds and I have a return. I just wait for the money on my account. I don't need to call a farm manager. And I see it's growing. And even the recent MTN IPO, those are the kinds of opportunities that you can look at if you don't really love to really do things that need a lot of energy and effort. There are other options that you can actually lean back on. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Barbara. You've had it. Concentrate your energy on the things you can do best. Dr. Ian Clarke, I'm going to read about 2-3 questions so that you get to answer them at once, and then we will get into our closing remarks. Thank you so much, Doctor. How are you able to manage all these streams of income without falling apart? Especially since you have mentioned that you actively supervise all. Also, how do you manage your work-life balance? That's number 1. Thank you, Dr. Ian, for that inspirational session. My question is, sometimes the issue is capital. The issue is capital. Especially when you are earning, when your earning is not enough. How can one break through? How can one break through? How can one break through? Then he goes ahead and say, can you support in steering and guidance to see one's dream come true? That is from Lydia. Then Ojambo says, Ojede Benjamin, how do we get to visit and learn from Ian Clarke's farm? I would like to mobilize a few of my colleagues who are extremely interested in farming for a visit. I can answer partly that. You can also go through us, but you can go through him also. But as NSSF, we are happy to help you organize, not facilitate, but organize. But you can get to him directly. He will also let us know. Now, and the last one for this one, we agree that physical presence is important, but the thing to understand is some of us just can't be present. Could there be someone come up with a solution? But I think this I'll give to Patrick because he was already given the challenge to come up with a solution. Can someone come up with a solution for us, the telephone farmers? I think Patrick, go first, then Doctor will answer his.
One of the businesses that the startups that actually pitched had a very unique concept, and exactly that. Their long-term view is you have land in Tororo, you want to basically, you hire them as their entire outfit. They go there, assess the soil, assess the things for you, then they begin to plant, and they are planting for a market they have. So the whole process is theirs. They will take commission after the production. So that is a niche that's actually now growing within the country, and it's one of those ideas that we actually want to actually partner with and help them develop in that area. So there are enough places that you can do. But I think Barbara's answer is, if you don't have the physical presence and you don't love it, don't do it. Focus on what you can do, because there's a plethora of things you can do. So my thing to you, and I think Livingston was right, if you don't love it, don't try it. Business is hard. You have to be so passionate about it, because the one ingredient of surviving a business is called perseverance. You have to be willing to stay there for the longest time. The biggest mistake we make in Uganda is, so my neighbor has a boda, so I also buy a boda. 2 months, 3 months, I'm not making money, I'm losing money. And suddenly when I'm about to master the boda business, I give up and go get another business and start all over again, because we're not getting into things we are passionate about.
Thank you so much. Dr. Ian?
Okay, thank you. The first question was about, how do I manage the various businesses? The farm I'm hands-on on the farm because it was a new and a fairly large business to develop. The hospital, as I said, I just sit on the board. No, I'm not day-to-day really there at all. The university, I have a chancellor who is actually part of my family, Dr. Rose Nanyonga, and also my son is involved in that, in the business development. And the school, my son does the school. And the other businesses, like the landscape design company that I mentioned, I have a young guy who runs that very well. I only need to, so in other words, I have the hotel is run by, I have another son. So he does a family business. But whether, there's another business I have in South Sudan where I took a partner, a young lady who, she runs that. I was just up there last week, but I don't have to, I wouldn't even run that business if I had to go and run it hands-on. I wouldn't be able to do that. But I have someone who is there. So it's really, different models. And what I can really say is that if you're starting a business, you need to be hands-on. At some point, the farm will probably be much more. I have a professional farm manager and a whole, bunch of section heads and so on and so forth. So it really depends on the business and how you delegate it, and the professionals you bring in, and then you can control some businesses just by board meetings, by meeting, and you can be fairly hands-off. Some other business you're hands-on. Then the work-life balance. Yeah, I mean, I think that we've said about interest in something, passion for something. For me, yes, I work hard on the farm. Sometimes I really get tired, but I'm also passionate about it. So it's something that I enjoy. So I think that my wife, sometimes she complains, but you're never home. But then at other times, absence makes the heart grow fonder. we rushed back yesterday. I was on the farm. We rushed back and we had a birthday celebration for my son. It was really great. I think the work-life balance, if you like what you're doing, then that's very, very important. Then getting capital. It's almost too big a question, really. There's different ways of getting capital. Depends. If somebody's talking about startup capital, then you've got these programs like the Innovator program. We mentioned friends and family. That is so important in people getting businesses started. And then you get to another stage where you as you mentioned, Patrick, you can raise private equity. You've banking, finance, and so on. So it's just a very, very big subject. And I've had capital from various sources. And let me tell you about capital. You never have enough. I mean, it's never enough. You always need. That's my problem. Is I always have another project. So on the farm. The farm's a whole lot of projects, as you saw for yourself, because then we put in the wet processing station. But then you need a dry line, and then we cleared that hill where you went, and it's like, people want to come and visit, so why don't we build a tourist lodge? And now the next thing I know will be like, why don't you have a training center? So there's always, and there's never enough money, so you have to pace yourself. Steering and guidance, I think really what I would say about that is, I would like to see like CIU. The reason CIU started as Clarke International University, it started as International Health Science University, and then we decided to broaden the mandate. In fact, I said at the time, look, I've been in business, I've done it, why don't we do a business school? And, where we teach this kind of real practical, not the text, nothing wrong with the textbook stuff, but the stuff that's applicable to the Uganda situation, like the professor over here. You really get into the streetnomics. And so we've done that refractory program in the IT, but we have a School of Business and Applied Technology. And that is where I would like to see us doing training. We can do short courses, and where we would, I'd like to see us getting more into, say, agricultural training. And in fact, the reason I want to say this because it sounds egotistical to name a university after yourself. I didn't name it after myself, but the people, the alumni and the people in the university said, you know what, it's a brand, okay? And that's what I'd like to see, that if we're doing something, there's a way to do business in Uganda, as you say, that can speak for itself, that can be honest, that can be practical, that can build stuff, that can help the community, and that can have that passion and that inspiration. And so would like to, I'd like to, I mean, remember the conversation we had about innovation a couple of years ago. You guys seem to be doing a great job as NSSF in terms of being inspirational to people. I'd be happy to collaborate with you in something that makes sense as far as that's concerned, and the university as well, and the training and so on. So we have those things. And in fact, my son was saying to me, he said, look, Ian, he didn't say Ian, he said Dad, actually. He said, Dad, we need to get you there sometimes doing some of those courses, coming in as a visiting lecturer and then giving your experience. I'm happy to do that. It's very difficult for me to just mentor individuals who come along. Yeah, I think that was it, yeah. And visiting, I'll leave that one to you.
Yes, Patrick.
This is something, and he's alluded to it. A lot of people say we don't have capital. But let me tell you, every bank in this country makes money by lending money. Now, why aren't they lending you? And I'm going to tell you something. Either your idea is not good enough, or it's not packaged well enough. So the first thing you can do for free, write it down and let somebody take a look at it. As a business plan, it will cost you nothing. You spend time with it and to help you. The second one, and he's just mentioned it, we are so careless as Ugandans. We just burn out goodwill. We are not honest. Our integrity levels are low. Even if somebody is to lend you money, they've lent it to you one time, you didn't bring it back. Could have been 100K, but they gave you, you didn't pay it back, you turned off your phone. If you begin to build that capital, I call it the self-capital, and your integrity is in place, and people can trust you, I tell you something, you will get the money. So that little things actually works, because in Uganda we are so careless with our words. You come, you go borrow a shirt, you don't take it back, you turn off your phone, and suddenly you burn up every goodwill you can have. And yet that is critical if you're going to do a business. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. We are almost winding up, but I need to read this message for you. Customer experience continues to be strong value proposition for all our members. Without it, it would be impossible to realize our vision of becoming a social security provider of choice. Not to mention our purpose of making lives better through passionately dedicating ourselves to making the habit of savings a way of life, so that more and more people can improve their well-being. Customers remain central to everything that we do, and we intend to give the best to our esteemed customer. This year's theme is rebuilding together. The pandemic may have challenged us a lot, might have challenged a lot of people's livelihood, but we partner at every given opportunity. If we partner at every given opportunity, we can come out stronger, more resilient, more purposeful, and more intentional about the journey towards our wealth creation. Patrick Ayota. Patrick Ayota has sent you this message, all our dear graduates, and you receive it in the book, The Great Financial Rebuild by Livingstone Mokasa. Allow me to invite Barbara but before I invite Barbara, let me have one word of closing remarks from each of the gentlemen, then we go to Barbara to give us closing remarks. Frederick.
Our dear savers, the graduates, and everyone out there, Ugandans, we have started. We will not stop. Whether we see it in our generation or in generations to come, we look forward to that time when the marginal propensity to save for Uganda will really be so high and will be written about in all world journals. We want to get to a place where saving is part of life. Like it's a normal thing, and people have multiple sources of income, and the elders are not, in quotes, being a burden to the children. Thank you.
Thank you, Frederick. Patrick?
And thank you, members. I think I'll just reiterate one thing. Each one of us is a creation of God. It means God does not make a mistake, nor does he waste time. So you, as you are today, you are neither a mistake or a waste of God's time. So there is in each of us something unique, something special that God has left you here to contribute to the well-being of all of us. So do not think you don't have it. You do. Try it, practice it, and sometimes led by what you like to do, and you practice and follow it, and you finally find out they are there. The last thing, if you're going to do business, I'm going to tell you something. Guys, he alluded to it. He's got the families are helping him. He alluded to it. You can't do it alone. We are here. God has linked us together because we need each other. Businesses succeed because it's either other people's efforts. You can't be in Tororo. Somebody else should be there. Or other people's money. You don't have enough, so you have to use somebody else's money to do that. The problem in Uganda, sometimes we think I have to own 100% of $1 million shillings instead of 50% of $1 billion shillings. And let's learn to partner, trust each other, collaborate, and we leverage on what we each can contribute to this world. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Doctor?
I think, remember, everything has, every big thing has a small beginning. So, I mean, I've seen that with every business I've done. Sometimes you're just really doing mundane and small things just to get something going. But also remember that value people, and particularly value young people. I don't know, I could not have achieved anything at all, whether the farm or anything else, unless I had worked with fellow Ugandans who have been just unbelievable. Over the years, it's incredible. Dr. Moses Gallo-Kande, who's our main surgeon at IHK, was just telling me he's just been awarded the recognized as a fellow of the American College of Surgeons. He's a brilliant man, but I remember Moses when he was a young doctor working with me out in Chioko. I think of some of the people. By the way, mostly also, not mostly, but an awful lot of women who have been unbelievably good in terms of, they, I've sometimes just dropped them in to solve a problem and they've been able to move things forward. So let's value our fellow people, and then if we can give them the inspiration and the vision, we can really go together.
Thank you, Doctor. And finally, Barbara.
Wow. This has been time really, really well spent. And I didn't want it to come to an end. I was still actually soaking it all in. So I would like to request all of you just to join me in appreciating all the speakers for the day. Dr. Ian Clarke, our DMD, Patrick Ayota, who is also standing in for the Managing Director, our Acting Head of Operations, Frederick, the team, Rebecca, and where is the headmaster? Let's really just appreciate them. Thank you so, so much. You have made a great difference in my life while I sat here listening, and I know in the life of the various people who have been online. I also want just to say congratulations to our over 600 graduates for the day. You really have taken the right step. And just maybe to touch on a brief background, and I know most of the speakers have talked about it, so I'm just summarizing. The fund started this program because we realized that we're paying a lot of benefits out there to many people who are qualifying, but we're not seeing this impact in the economy. Just to give you just a simple number, last year we paid to benefits to about 25,000 people, you can imagine, and that was 629 billion shillings in this economy. But if you walk on the streets, do you see it? And we actually realized that as we did several surveys that most people would come to us when they only had the NSSF saving, 98% of those coming. And again, when we engage them during the Friends with Benefits, we say, tell us your success story. We realized that actually we had so many misconceptions about utilizing money. Some would even say, this is my success story. I married a new wife. I got a car. So you see those kind of things. And so we realized that as a fund, it was not enough to meet our mandate of receiving your money and then multiplying it and giving to you when you qualify. But we needed to get into the kitchen with you and ensure that we rebuild together and make saving a way of your life. And that is the reason why this financial literacy program was started. And it's not only for members, but also for staff members, so that we can be better people and be more balanced in all aspects of life. So today, I just want to say congratulations to our candidates, and just to challenge you that it's not enough to learn. We have learned and learned and learned. We've learned how we should actually grow this money. We've learned how we should keep it. We've learned how we should multiply it and sustain it and leave a legacy. Now that we have learned, the big challenge is, what are we going to do with all these lessons learned? What difference are we going to make out there? Yeah, because all of us say, okay, I've learned how I can do this. I have learned I need to have a vision. But the big question is, what are you going to do? And that question should actually apply from now on. As you finish, you should ask yourself, how do I actualize this? And from the speakers of the day, I realized there were 4 key things. The first one is your vision. The second thing is accountability partners. The third thing is subject matter experts. And of course, launching out, just getting up and starting. And not being afraid to fail and lose some money in the process. Just get up and start going. And so as we wish you well, we just want to reassure you that the fund is there to support you on this journey and to ensure that we all make a difference. As we strive to make a difference in this nation, it all starts with you. You can make a difference in your area of influence, and together we shall build this nation. Thank you so much, and I wish you all a great weekend. Okay.
Well said, well said. Thank you so much. You've heard it.
Did I thank you, Apollo?
Oh, please
as well?
do. let me stand here and
Thanks
you
to
do.
the team that has made this possible. Of course, Apollo keeps telling us that, you know, I am the person. And many people have asked me, do you know Headmaster? So your brand is actually rising, Apollo. Thank you. Thanks to Rebecca, who has really been part of this and who is in charge of the Customer Connect Week. Thank you so much, Frederick. And I know sometimes you might not see Frederick, but it's really, that's true leadership, when you empower people and let them to run with what they're passionate about. Thank you so much. Thanks so much for the marketing team as well. I know my colleagues are here. You've done a great job. Yeah, thank you so much for all your support and the effort. And to our events team as well. Thank you so much. All the guys on the cameras. We really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you. She thanked Apollo. But in the same spirit, we shall thank the people of Luuka, the people of Nyem Nyem, the people of Chenjojo, the people of Karuma, and the people of Nankwade. I send my greetings, Mchalamboa. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this. Congratulations, the graduates. You will get a personalized message on where you will pick up your hamper, including this book that has been given to you. We are out of the habit of giving T-shirts and cups and everything. We are giving knowledge. Thank you so much. From the NSSF team, we say goodbye and have a great weekend. Thank you.
So my name's Ian Clarke. I'm born in Ireland, but I've lived in Uganda over 30 years. I first of all came out with Church Mission Society, the Anglican Mission. And the first project that I did with my wife and family, we started a hospital in Luwero after the war in 1988. This called Chiwoko. And we ran that project about 5 or 6 years. Subsequent to that, I came back to Kampala, this time just as a private person, and with the aim of starting a hospital. About 7 years ago, I had developed the hospital to a level where I had taken in some minority partners before that, about 10 years ago. And then I was approached by a large company in Mauritius, which wished to extend a medical footprint, a healthcare footprint in Africa. And they bought a majority shareholding of the hospital. So there was a change about 6, 7 years ago when that released some cash for me and I was able to diversify into some other businesses. So I said, let me develop something in the agribusiness sector.
And of course, it's nice being on a farm to go back to your roots. By having the farm, I'd like to do several things. One is have it as a demonstration farm that the local farmers can see it and see, oh, you can grow potatoes, you can grow corn, you can grow coffee well. We've started on the outgrowers scheme with David, whom you met, which I hope that will improve livelihoods. So this farm is also an attempt to make the Ugandan coffee, Robusta, good quality, traceable, Robusta, and hopefully push the price up a bit.
When I was in Ireland before I came here, I was a general practitioner. I was fairly well off. I was middle class and so on. When I came out to the Luwero Triangle, I had to start over again. Always, you have to be prepared to start from very little again. And when I came back to Kampala, another small clinic starting again. And let's not forget, in Africa, you need to be there. You need to know what's going on. So you need to get your system of governance, your system of corporate governance, on those sort of things.
We've started in the last couple of seasons to grow seed potatoes, and we have, do you see that shed there that's kind of white? It's got a green roof.
Yes.
It's a cold store. So we built this cold store, which means that even for ware potatoes, we don't have to sell them when everybody else has them. So this year, for example, We didn't sell. We harvested the ware potatoes, but we kept them in the cold store. And then when the potato prices were going up, then we sold them. Yeah, well, I sort of got into chickens like a lot of people get into these things, and then you're like, oh, why did I get into this? And it actually took me quite some time to get, all these things are quite scientific. So if you're not getting about 80% lay from your chickens, 80% and beyond, for a certain number of weeks, and you're not feeding them, I think it's 120 grams per day, then you're probably not making any money. It's not anything wonderful. But the side effect is the chicken manure. Now, if you're really pure organic, you're supposed to have cow manure. But I'm not pure organic. And the chicken manure, there's plenty of it, and it works. It works. So I'm happy to have that cycle where I'm able to use things, and it's okay. It's settled down into something that, as they say, cleans its nose, but it's not highly profitable.
I didn't want all my eggs in one basket. We had, proper books of accounts. We had good governance. We had a good organization. Of course, then someone who's looking for an investment may come and say, can I invest? At that point, someone can say, no, I don't want investment. I'm going to just keep doing this myself. And so it was the right time for me to sell. And yet at the same time, I didn't leave. I stayed on as chairman for about 4 or 5 years after that. Still stay on the board. I'm still a shareholder. But now the hospital has got professional management and people, and I'm not so much involved apart from board meetings. It's been nice for me to be able to both diversify and then also invest in something like the land where I see the changes on a weekly basis.
NSSF, a better life.